And meantime, the mischaracterization of people like yourself, I mean, we saw just in that episode with Governor Palin and you on Amazing America, the obvious love you have for your dogs. And, Governor Palin also is a dog person. We just rescued our little guy almost a year ago off of a highway. I mean, they live pretty large and pretty well in all three of our respective homes. And meantime, you're called, someone who is is animal cruelty. And these are the same people who will, defend Michael Vick or defend others. We've seen things from other politicians who talk one way and then do another. I think you guys do a lot more for certain animals than a lot of these people who like to go out and protest and often violently, the PETAs of the world and whatnot. And here you are, a dog guy, but you know that these other animals, like you said, they have a purpose out there. And also the environmentalists who cry about this all the time. You are doing something for the renewable resources. You're feeding people. How could this be attacked?
Well, you got to be real careful that, you and I and the vast majority, I don't know about the vast majority, but I still pray to God it's the majority of my fellow man, still have to live by logic, responsibility, accountability. We are driven to be productive, to be law-abiding, to be beneficial as an asset to our family, our neighborhood, our fellow man, and God's green earth. And I think I've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt with the success of our Spirit of the Wild show, the success of my tours. I mean, 2014, I had the best tour of my life with Shut Up and Jam with my unbelievably God-gifted musicians and the most ferocious audiences a musician could ever dream of dancing the boogie dance with. But I also set records all this year in 2015 on Facebook with over 33.5 million Facebookers, Kevin. I think I eclipsed Beyonce and Taylor Swift there for a few months. And it's because I represent what people believe. I actually say what people wish they could say, and have somehow been kowtowed and intimidated by a government out of control, much of the media out of control, academia out of control, and all conspiratorial in a leftist agenda that is not American and often anti-American. But when I set records on Facebook, and I go on every day, I think I'm down to like 25 million right now, and I was on this morning after my morning hunt, and I was on this afternoon before my afternoon hunt, and I celebrate tooth, fang, and claw that hands-on conservation, that wildlife is thriving because of hunting dollars, hunting regulations, and the hunting annual renewable value of these sacred wildlife resources. More deer, more elk, more turkey, more geese, more cougar, more black bear than ever in recorded history. And that's because hunters maximize and optimize habitat. And that's not just for targets, because every songbird and every endangered species benefits from every hunter, fisher, and trapper dollar for a wildlife habitat rehabilitation and safeguarding. And just the proof of those 33.6 million Facebookers, many of which, Kevin, came on because they love my rock and roll, How Could You Not? And they are celebrating 40 years of Stranglehold and all my other love songs. And they came on as sometimes anti-hunting and sometimes anti-gun. But if you follow my Facebook, you'll see that all of a sudden these people go, well, if there weren't so many guns, there wouldn't be so many murders, until they hear the facts about the engineered recidivism. And then they hear the facts about wildlife habitat producing more deer and more elk and more bear and more cougar and more turkey and more geese. And all living things, all mankind's quality air, soil, and water, quality of life is produced from wildlife habitat. And then they realize that there is no higher love, there is no higher reverence than the renewable utility, i.e. conservation, thanksgiving, of the sacred venison, the skins, the hooves, the teeth, the claws, the skulls, the bones, the sinew, and all around the world, the body fluids, and everything is utilized with life-giving reverence. And when they come on to Spirit of the Wild, just as a rock and roll fan, they get it quick, Kevin. But if you're on drugs, if you're filled with hate, if you're hopelessly brainwashed that wildlife is a cartoon character, you'll have to go to Michael Moore documentaries and live the big lie.
Well, you nailed it. People are scared to speak up, and for some of them, you could really understand. You know, these are people with families who are afraid of their employer if you speak conservative. You mentioned academia. People, well, I'm not going to get a good grade if I go against this ridiculous activist
I hear that
professor.
all the time.
Yep. So you're
it's sad, but that's the intimidation factor.
Yep,
and here's the
it
bottom
works.
line. Hello, everybody. My name is Ted Nugent. I actually not only wrote Wang Dang Sweet Poontang, I meant it. The point is I'm as crazy, out of control, uninhibited, intense, ferocious, animal rock and roller that you'll ever witness. I've been clean and sober for 67 years, surrounded by the most wonderful, conscientious, giving, loving people in the world, from band and crew and management, family, friends, audiences, Spirit of the Wild and Sunrise Safaris, fellow hunters, and people that do charity work for every children's charity and every military charity that donate hunts and guns and bows and arrows and hunting trips. And these are the kind of people that are so positive, so wonderful, that I use the word blood brothers. They are blood brothers in the Aboriginal sense that we will always be there for each other. And that's the life that I live. And I know for a fact that when I speak, I'm not giving hunches, I'm not making guesses, and I don't dare presume. I'm telling you exactly the science of sustained yield wildlife and wildlife habitat and the carrying capacity of given specific habitat via each species. And that's why wildlife is thriving, because that's the science that hunters demanded, that we pay for, and that we finance the law enforcement thereof. And anybody that's against hunting, fishing, and trapping is just a rotten person.
We've had guests on this show who have, had threats against them. Teresa Vale. We've had Jen Cordero, Jen the Archer, better known as, and just people coming after them social media wise. It's really amazing. And then they do that reverse deal where they try to call conservatives bullies, but really we see where it's coming from.
I mean, this is like the Twilight Zone. So my point is, everybody listening right now, when you put your heart and soul into researching and examining the history, the science, the evidence, the truth, the biology of wildlife and the hunting, fishing, trapping success stories of this country, increasing and bringing the healthiest wildlife that this nation has ever seen since probably the year 12, and that with Boone and Crockett and SCI and Pope and Young breaking records every year of elk and moose and bears and cougars and caribou and wildlife, we're setting records because they're getting healthier, Kevin. Isn't it crazy that Ted Nugent has to spread this word? Because SCI and Pope and Young and Boone and Crockett, with all due respect, I love the members, but they couldn't sell a blanket to a naked man in a blizzard. They don't know how to get beyond the choir, and as soon as they could learn to celebrate that we're breaking trophy records because the animals are getting bigger, they're getting healthier, they're getting stronger, they're growing older because of our successful wildlife management. So what Sarah Palin represents, what the hunting families of this country represent, what you represent on this radio show, and what I do in everything I do, from Spirit of the Wild to my music to my stage presentations to the writings. I write for deeranddeerhunting.com, WND.com, dailycaller.com, and about 20 magazines, and at tednugent.com, and on my Facebook. I mean, I'm an energized son of a gun. I think it's the venison, Kevin. But I am committed to halting the lies of the left and the anti-hunters and the anti-gunners by just bringing forth the facts, the evidence, and the fact that we celebrate 250 million meals of venison with the Hunters for the Hungry program. 250 million a year, Kevin, every year for 26 years, going to soup kitchens and homeless shelters. What kind of soulless punk would be against that? And I'll tell you who. Humane Society of the United States, PETA, Michael Moore, Michael Bloomberg, Hillary Clinton, most of the left, most of the Democrats, freaks. They're freaks because they don't want to share the purest protein with our fellow needy Americans, and that's downright rotten.
I think it is the venison that has you powered up. You know, Governor Palin, when Senator Paul and Senator Cruz had the filibuster situation, what did she send? The moose jerky and venison. It keeps you going. You got to get.
I'm telling you, the sacred flesh, baby. It keeps me going. I am the backstrap czar, and I'm 67. And I just had both knees replaced. I had a few surgeries this year, but I climbed up that mountain with my son Toby in Colorado last month like I was 14.
That's awesome. That's
because
tremendous.
I have a passion for life. Because I spend so much time with the heroes of the military, and I came home from Baghdad in Afghanistan with the remains of those heroes, and I witnessed the tragedy of the greatest warriors that ever walked the earth, sacrificing their lives and their limbs so that we can be free. How dare I not be?
You mentioned your amazing amount of followers on social media. Governor Palin also an unbelievable presence on social media, and that speaks to the ridiculousness of Verizon's statement with Sportsman Channel, a network that has you, a network that has Governor Palin, a network where your Ted Nugent Spirit of the Wild was named third straight year you were best host on Outdoor Channel at the Hunting Outdoor Trade Show. So, I mean, the facts, like you said, you're dealing in facts again. They're dealing in propaganda. I want to talk about someone else who's not scared of media pressure and not scared of the left, and that's Kid Rock, who recently caught a lot of flack for showcasing the Confederate flag in some pictures, and he was threatened by the left, take it down or else. You got a chance to perform with him in Detroit this summer. What was that like, and what do you think about Kid Rock?
Well, the Kid Rock of the Motor City needed to rock out with Papa Rock, the Motor City Madman. He's a great friend of mine, and he is a tough guy. He really represents that Detroit spirit of defiance and rugged individualism with adequate piss and vinegar. Now, I didn't invent piss and vinegar, but I have perfected it. And when I see a guy like Kid Rock not afraid to stand up for the most politically incorrect stuff in the world, which happens to be the tip of the culture war spear is hunting and gun ownership. I mean, that's it. That really is the tip of the culture war spear. And Kid Rock is an incredibly gifted musician with just unbelievable amounts of soul and ferocious stage presence. He's just a real rhythm and blues, rock and roll, Motown classic. And I know that he's going to be speaking out more and more. His girlfriend, Audrey, is addicted to the mystical flight of the arrow, and she's an absolute killer. She's going to be doing some more Queen of the Forest stuff with my Queen of the Forest, Shemaine. And that's another perfect example of what Sarah Palin represents, and my wife Shemaine, and all these other really wonderful gals out there, is that it really is a human instinct to provide sustenance, especially pure renewable sustenance for your family. And there's more and more of that. And Kid Rock is going to be taking some of the hunting season off with his family and friends, and we're going to share some campfires. And I think I'm going to get him a little bit more presence on Spirit of the Wild as soon as possible.